I was born, my mum was cycling business there. And after that, when I got a bit older, I was carried on a kiddie seat on the front of her bike, backwards and forwards. And I'd sit there singing away, singing violins, the White Cliffs of Dover,
Really?
kicking my feet and getting rid of me woolly booties. And from about 3 years old to whatever.
So when was this? What year would that have been?
1940 I was born.
Right, okay.
I was the first child in Cambridge to be put in a gas mask.
Really?
In maternity hospital on Mill Road.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you were born in Cambridge.
Yeah,
Where was it your mum was cycling from, did you say?
Cambridge, St Neots.
Really?
Yeah,
Gosh, that's
18
a long way.
miles. 16 miles.
So your mum was a big cyclist? And
Well, no, because that's all you had in those days.
that was just the transport,
They
yeah.
used to live in Catherine Street, which was one of the houses on Mill Road, which were built in the 1890s, and they built the railway around Cambridge. And one brick between you and the next door neighbour, they were that rough and ready places, and they lived there for as well. You could buy the house on the market in those days for 400 quid. If you were a sitting tenant, you could buy it for 200, and my dad couldn't afford to buy it. And he never made enough money to own a car, learn to drive, or buy his own house. And all those years into his life, you give him a piece of leather and he could turn it into anything.
So what was his job?
Well, he was a harness maker, but he was a leather worker, really.
For horses, harness for
Yeah,
horses.
whole harnessing. For one top, for part of his life, he was making footballs, leather footballs.
Really?
And he used to have a rubber bladder in them and a stitched lace to lace them up with. And he made hundreds of them. And got 9 or 10 different patterns of panel on them that he used to dig up. And when my brother, when they lived in Gloucestershire, my brother stayed there and was at the grammar school. When he was at the grammar school, he went to play rugby. My father bought the bladder, because they had a rubber bladder in them, and made the panels up from leather that he nicked from work when he was working there, and made a proper leather rugby ball.
Wow.
And it was that good that the school pinched it off them because they're better than anything they bought.
So tell me about your racing. So you started on a bike on the back of your mum's bike?
On the front.
On the front?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then how did you get interested in cycling?
Well, I started cycling at 7 when the war stopped, and when finally stuff began to come out on the market, I bought myself my first ever bike, which was, just to ride to work, to school and to do things. I mean, more or less born on the bike, and I just did it because that was the easiest way to get it. I got that interested in it that I'd get my bike out to ride up to the sweet shop halfway up Catherine Street, things like that. I used a bike like everybody else used to use a car.
Yeah.
And at 7 I started to learn to ride. It took me a long time to learn to ride. My dad pushed me off down Catherine Street and told me to get off by swinging my leg over the seat. And I daren't, and I ended up running into the back of the only parked car in Catherine Street and fell off. But I finally did it. And then at 14, me and the lad at school was still into cycling, but they wouldn't let us do cycling while we were doing we had to play rugby and hockey at school, because I was at grammar school. And I can't play rugby with glasses and things like that because we're wearing spectacles. So we asked them if we could do, they got a 440-yard grass track marked up on one of the things. Could we use our bikes to train around that? And they wouldn't let us because they said they weren't insured for us to do that, and we'd only clear off and go home. While we were doing it, in the old days with cycling, we used to have a sports meeting on Cambridge City Football Ground every August with all sorts of athletics, athletics, cycle racing, 440, 220 metres and things like that, the sprint races.
Wow.
And a 5 mile big road with time trial, not a time trial, a big mass start sort of race. And when we rode with the disc, we were the BCF Cycling Federation's East Anglia Division Team Pursuit Champions. That's 4 men up, changing every quarter of a lap, like they're doing hard tracks in the Olympics. But we were doing it on grass tracks in the open air, and we were the BCF champions for East Anglia for 4 years.
Wow.
4 of us, me, my brother, and another lad in the disc, and somebody else we could get. And I was doing thousands of miles, and I was doing time trials. The St Neots Road is part of my life, basically, because when we were doing time trials, we were doing 10 miles, 25 miles, and using the Huntington Road as well, 50 miles, time trials up there. Every all through the summer, and then I went to Science Centre and started riding with them and doing all the miles I did there. And I've done thousands of miles. I've been halfway around the world on the bike.
Really? Where have you been?
New Zealand, South Africa, France, Belgium, Holland. When Cambridge twinned with Christchurch, and 4 of us rode 2 tandems across Belgium and Holland to get to Germany. 10 days before I did that, I bent fractured my right thumb, rode across Holland with a plaster on in the pouring rain, told by the right, don't get it wet, and then back again.
Wow.
for twinning with Guys Pearson. We were there about 4 weeks. A couple of weeks.
Yeah. And that was for racing, was it?
No, this was just
pleasure.
The twinning business for Cambridge and Germany.
Yeah.
And we were the only cyclists that went, 4 of us. And we got involved with the cyclists over there.
So when did you say you used to work in St Neots, did you?
No, I've never. No, I worked at Cambridge County Council.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
When you were doing all those miles, tell me about that again, because I didn't have it on the recorder.
I was working for Cheltenham Rural District Council in those days. I was junior clerk, so I had to be the first one there to open up in the mornings, and I'd cycled the 14 miles out to get there, and I was the last one to leave because I had to take the post down to the post office, and if I was a bit late getting out of the post office because they wouldn't let me have the time off and work to do it. I had to wait till work had finished, go into the post office, do the post, and then bike the 14 miles home. And if I'd got anything going on in the evening, I'd get home, have my main meal in the evening, change and get dressed up. If I was going out with my girlfriend one night to go to the cinema, and they clocked me in the bus that passed me at every bus stop between Cheltenham and Cirencester Centre that night. They passed me, and I was doing 40 miles an hour the whole way home. Now, if I'd have done that in a 25-mile time trial, the 25 miles, the 4-minute mile of 25-mile time trial was getting under the hour. Doing 25 miles in less than 60 minutes. I never quite managed that. I did 5 or 10 O's and 1s, never got under it, but because of my I've got muscular dystrophy as well, so it wasn't really helping much. Didn't know that at the time. And I say, I was doing it. If I'd have done 40 miles an hour, I'd have been the national champion for 25 miles. I've done about 40 minutes, 25 miles.
It's because you were going out with your girlfriend, it spurred you on.
Yeah. But I never tried that. All the times I was racing, I was enjoying it. I mean, 12 hour I was enjoying it. The only 12 hour I didn't ride one year, I rode 3 12s. I rode one at 18 when you weren't supposed to ride the time trial, a 12 hour time trial like that because it stunted your growth. And I rode it on a track bike with single fix, 1 brake on the front and a single fixed wheel. And I potted round it, rode out to it the Saturday evening, stayed in a pub overnight, rode it and then rode home after it, and I did 226 miles in it, which wasn't bad, but I say a couple of years later when I was riding with a Cambridge club, I rode a 12 hour with them, the Newton Wheelers 12 hour, and the night before I started it, I screwed a bottle case to my racing bike, which didn't normally have a bottle cage on it because it was a lightweight one, and I inadvertently screwed the gear cables that went down beside the down tube of the bike, screwed them to the tube, so I had to stop, undo the bottle cage, and that so I could change gear in it. And doing that, I felt my back twist, and I rode the next 10 hours with a slip disc. And going around, and then you end up on a finishing circuit on these things, because there's a timer every mile to work out how far you've gone on the finishing circuit. And I did 222, because at 10 hours the pain went, and I was roaring around the finishing circuit, catching rider after rider and talking to them, and you don't do that to people in an event like that, because you're getting knackered at the end of the event. You don't, some idiot comes up and starts talking to you and clearing off. And I ended up doing 222, and the pair in the club I was with, who I was riding with, who I hadn't seen all day, because the bloke feeding me was the bloke from the disc club because we used to ride a lot in disc. And he was feeding me as I rode round, and if the pair, somebody had come and said do a bit quicker, we would have had first team, 3-man team, instead of second-man team in the event. And the following year I joined the disc club, because we've been riding over there every weekend, and I rode the West Suffolk Wheelers, and the bloke that won the Luton Wheelers the year before, a man named John Baines, he passed me at 80 miles coming out of Beryston Edmonds up this big hill. It's a long old road, isn't it, mate? Well, I caught him again on the finishing circuit when he'd gone to the wall, and he was weaving from side to side on the road, because he hadn't got the strength to ride in a straight line. So on the finishing circuit again, and then I went past him. It was a long old road, isn't it, John? So I passed him, beat him, and then round the back of the circuit I caught up with the other lad from the Cambridge club, a bloke named Bill Ives, who'd just been stung by a wasp. And he was sitting there as his mate who was feeding him pulled this wasp in, and the look on his face when I went past him, because he was winning the event, but when I passed him, he wasn't, I was.
He knew he wouldn't, yeah.
And I had to get 2 minutes in front of him to beat him, 3 minutes in front of him. And as I finished, my time ran out, he called me, and he did 248 and I did 247.
And how many miles was that?
247 miles.
Wow.
And that was more or less almost competition record in those days.
And time, what was the time on that?
Well, it's 12 hours.
12 hours.
Beryl Burton was the first person to do 300 miles in a 12 hour. And Peter meant to do it and one of the very best. Anyway, the report in the Cambridge News for Bill, he'd won the West Suffolk Wheelers. Surprise of the day was his ex-club mate, Mick Swales, who'd he'd beaten his previous best of 222 and had already done 226, so that was wrong, by 25 miles. Well, I'd beaten it only by 16 because it done 247. I got a better write-up in the Cambridge paper than he did, and I wasn't riding for the Cambridge club.
Yeah.
Quite chuffed about that.
Have you got the paper? Have you still got the clipping?
I've got a lot of cuttings and I've got a lot of pictures and stuff. I've lost a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you tend to. Yeah.
And well, you said you had muscular dystrophy. When did you first diagnose?
I was 32 at the time. I collapsed. I mean, I was cycling all the time. And this one Christmas, I just collapsed. I got no effort or anything. So I stayed in bed over Christmas 3 days, and I then got up and when I felt a bit better, went to a physio in Grange Road, ex-Leicester City Football Club physio, who looked at me and he could see a physical disability in my right shoulder, which I knew I had, because when we were cycling regularly, on the way home from club runs, we'd had tea in a pub in the evening, and then finished up in the pub, you know, for a pint before we finally went home, playing darts. And I started throwing 3 darts doing 180s, and all of a sudden I started throwing one into the wall, because I was losing control of my right shoulder. And the bloke that measured me up for my first ever suit reckoned my shoulder was off. You know, there's a big hole in it, and you can actually see the hole. And they didn't know what it was. and he said, the physio said you ought to go and see your doctor. And they referred me to photobooks, the neurology people, and they took a muscle biopsy and told me that I got facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy, which someone, my mother probably had given me. Well, she'd been troubled for a long time with, more or less in a wheelchair. So in actual fact, that was the problem. She'd given me it. Her mother had given it to her. Because some of these muscular dystrophy, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, is given by the mothers to the boys, and the boys don't get beyond about 30. My mum lived to 90 with this one,
Wow.
and I'm 84. And they took this muscle biopsy and told me what it was. And for a time, I was still, not really feeling it. Still ride the bike. I rode a bike till I was 40. I rode my last 50-mile time trial over 40 because I managed to win the club, the Mildenhall Cycling Club. I won their over 40s tricycle over 40s handicap award that year. Doing it with something like that, 220 for a 50. But yeah, I've done all sorts.
How long have you been coming here?
Oh, years.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's so long now.
What do you like about it?
It's the people you're with and what they offer you and things. It's quite brilliant, really. Yeah.
But you like to go on the bike in the
Yeah,
gym?
I still got an interest because one of their machines in there has got a film bit on it, and they put it on. So I was riding on this bit of road that I suddenly realised I knew because it was in South Africa, and it was one of the bits of road which they call the garden route from Johannesburg to Cape Town. I'd been on that bit of road on a bike, physically on there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So then you can do it in there and pretend you're,
I'm back
yeah.
home, yeah. I've done all sorts. Morocco, been up there, Atlas Mountains. Oh dear, all the Spain, Italy, France, Belgium, Germany. Oh, you name it.
You definitely need to write your life story. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, the things that have happened you wouldn't believe. I've known everybody that's done more in the high spots in cycling. I was at a club dinner once, and I'd fallen off a couple of weeks before, turned the tricycle over, put 27 stitches in a scalp wound, and at this Newark Knots Olympics dinner, we were on the top table because the bloke I trained and raced with a lot, Frank Brown, he won an award in one of their events. So we turned up as honoured guests sitting on the top table, and the bloke sitting next to me was a man named Ray Booty, who was the first man to go under 4 hours for 100. And he saw me with this badge. He said, "Oh, he's full of the tripe."
Yeah.
And the bloke we used to know in Swindon, because when I lived in Cirencester, we got involved with the Swindon Wheelers. And the bloke there was a man named Dennis White, who was the first man to do 24 hours in over 20 miles an hour, 480 miles. And they'd never heard of him. And yet they all said it was a freak, so we went back the next year and did 486. And so I've known Beryl Burton. I've talked to Beryl Burton when we were on the cycling club birthday rides in Ayr in Scotland after she'd retired. And with the trouble she'd had, during her life, she'd been left with a virus infection, and they found on the side of the road she'd been knocked down or something, or had a heart. And I knew her. I saw Reg Harris races last 2 years as a 65-year-old veteran. We were at the national track meeting in Halzone in Birmingham. We were riding the individual pursuit, my brother, me and another lad from the DIS. We'd never ridden hard track before, and we didn't know what we were doing, so we never came anywhere basically because we hadn't got the right gear. But while we were there, Reg Harris was riding his final 2 years of sprint, and the bloke he rode against, Trevor Ball, didn't reckon Harris would beat him. Harris took him out in 2 straight legs. He didn't know what had hit him, didn't Ball? And Reg Harris reckoned he could accelerate from from 20 mile an hour to 40 mile an hour in 3 pedal
Wow.
revolutions.
It's amazing.
He'd been in the army. He evacuated from the army because of his illness. He was in tanks, and he'd been injured in tanks, and they reckoned he wouldn't ride a bike again. He came back at 65 and did it all again.
Do
World champion.
you watch Tour de France?
Yeah. I've ridden sort of event, not that type of event, but I've ridden road races. We used to ride grass track racing, road racing, time trialing. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
And I've ridden on Welling, the hard track at Welling. When the bloke who used to run it was Max Pendleton, who was Victoria Pendleton's father.
Oh, yeah.
So I know them.
Oh, wow.